Hey guys, Courtney here. Had a blast talking today on Dro TV. Smoke with you later.
Welcome to My First Time, the show about your first time getting high on marijuana. I'm your host, Mike Freeman with Dro TV. Today, I'd like to welcome our guest, Courtney Hutson. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for coming on the show today and giving Dro TV some of your time. You can find more of Courtney on Instagram and Facebook, Modern Ms. Jane, as well as modernmsjane.com. All the links will be down below. So Courtney, tell everybody a little bit about where you're located and what you do in the cannabis world.
Yeah, so my name again is Courtney. I am located in the great state of Oklahoma, the wild, wild west, as we're kind of known right now. I actually entered the cannabis world as a corporate trainer. I built one of the first telehealth platforms in the state of Oklahoma where you can go online, visit the doctor, get your medical recommendation, and all that fun stuff. So
Wow.
that's how I got into the industry.
Awesome. Excellent. And you've got a business building websites. You're a Cannacian, a word I just learned 10 minutes ago.
Yes.
And you've got a lot going on. So we definitely want to get into more of that. But the show is my first time. And so first, we want to hear about the first time you got high.
Okay. So fresh out of high school, I grew up in the Bible Belt. So it was the devil's lettuce. It was you smoke at one time back, the commercials where you just melt on the couch, you're no longer good. It's just, it was a huge stigma. And so, I was that girl who like broke up with boyfriends for it. So this was after high school. I had moved to the big city and I was actually living with my brother and my now husband. And two of my best friends from work had come over and everybody loved consuming. And so I caught myself in the smoke circle, right? And so I'm like, okay, I think I'm gonna finally do it. And I took a hit, and then everyone's like, do you feel it? Do you feel it? By the third hit, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. I started bawling. I was like, I'm gonna get fired. Oh my gosh. And everyone, at that point's like, whoa, you need to chill because if you get fired, we get fired.
Sure. Yeah.
So, needless to say, I actually didn't consume for another probably 5 to 7 years
Okay.
until I couldn't sleep at night. And it wasn't quite legal yet in Oklahoma. And someone was like, you really should just like take a hit before bed. And so I gave it a try. And then it became legal, and I went and got my card. And then I've had the chance. Now I'm a 7-time certified cannabis educator, and I've gotten to learn all the stigma that I grew up and how it really was trash what I was taught. And so now I have to kind of take it upon myself to really educate those surrounding me, breaking that stigma of I'm a very highly functioning, successful businesswoman, and I consume a lot of cannabis. So yeah, it turned from a really terrible, mortifying experience into something that has completely changed my body mentally, physically, financially, and emotionally.
Awesome. Excellent. I love people like yourself and stories where, I've got a shirt that says successful stoner. Um, and we're breaking these stigmas, like you said, everything you were taught is a bunch of nonsense. And it's one thing to learn something in a book, but when you consume it, and now, like you said, you consume a lot of cannabis, but when you got back into it, it was to help with sleep. And I would imagine it
Yeah,
almost worked instantly.
it did work instantly, but little did I know that I was a ticking time bomb. I weighed 308 pounds. I was on 12 prescription medications.
Wow.
I have everything from celiac to PCOS to chronic low back pain. My diagnosis list was longer than a recipe list. And so the fact that I can sit here now 2, 3 years into a major first learning experience that changed everything. I mean, you can't physically deny a loss of 150 pounds and 12 prescription, you can't deny that.
Yeah, it's hard to deny that for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so when you realized it helped with your sleep, did you start to think about what other benefits, and how did you get into a 7 time? Uh, Talk
Yeah.
us through this, please.
Yes. So, oh my goodness, for the longest time, I mean, I was consuming a gram for an entire week. I was literally just hitting like a single hit before bed. Once it got legalized, again, I kind of stumbled into the industry as a corporate trainer. And so I worked in a doctor's facility in which I helped write, the computer code, the intake system for seeing patients, all the different data points, those kinds of things. My official business title is a business and wealth strategist.
Okay.
So I go in and I just deconstruct and then I reconstruct for efficiency. And so I went in and I thought, okay, well, I can see how I can make this business efficiently run, but I need to comprehend the industry. I need to comprehend this product. And so that was the first time I got put through two educational courses. One was literally just like a cannabis 411, in which I learned about the culture and where the stigma began. Um, I'm so sorry.
No problem.
The different legislations, how the system was kind of built against this. And that was the first time I sat and my mind was just entirely blown that I had been lied to uh, by the world around me. The last large group to fight for our rights as individuals to consume cannabis was the American Medical Association. So to have science and people out there trying to fight for our right to consume because they know the benefits, but to literally to grow up and be taught that this is the devil's lettuce, it blew my mind. Everything shattered right then. And so at that point, I couldn't soak up enough knowledge. Then it was, the next course was pertaining to where it originally started growing, the what makes sativa, indica, the regions they grew, the visual descriptions on them, all of those types of things. And then it really started taking that scientific turn. I started learning about the endocannabinoid system and how it's our largest system in our body. And, that it's directly linked to all these different areas. I have depression and anxiety. So to know that we just have, massive clusters that are help protecting our neurons. And I could go real science and geeky. You can probably hear my passion kicking in, but
I love it.
uh,
Keep going, please.
it, ultimately, it communicates in our body through anandamide, which is literally fatty acid. So the same things that other dopamines and other types of things are communicating in our bodies. It just blows my mind that I'm like, you all, do you know this? And people always say, no. How do we not know this? And it just, now I just feel like it's such a responsibility. So that's really where my regimen fully shifted. I got done learning and I was like, oh my gosh, I should be taking, X amount of CBD every single day. I can be using this strain to help me with my workouts. I can be using this strain to help me with my muscle spasticity. I can be that's where I really started learning the difference in strains, terpenes, profiles, CBN, CBG, THCA, all the different compounds and components, the entourage effect. Am I layering this? Am I just smoking or am I consuming an edible? What are the things that my diagnosis, that my body needs to actually make this a medical regimen? And so that's really kind of where everything shifted. And I just started dropping prescription medications left and right. And so, yeah, that was a really long answer, but does that answer your question?
Oh, that was a great answer. Um, uh, I mean, there was so much there. No, that was a great answer. So all these things that you mentioned, it could probably be overwhelming when you first realize how much you don't know, and then now it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. how do you help somebody else when there is so much knowledge and it can be overwhelming, especially for somebody that knows nothing?
Absolutely. So my very first thing is I always do just a 15-minute basic consult in which we look at your body, your different diagnosis, your weight, and we figure out how many cannabinoids you need every day for your body to get into homeostasis, rhythm and flow. From there, we obviously find a good little regimen and we go ahead and start that as our building blocks. I normally am working with people almost on a daily basis their first week when they're getting started. But I love working with our local dispensaries. I'll go in and I'll take that patient and we'll go on a tour and we'll talk about the different ways you can consume. I'll physically show them, when I'm using words like terpenes, okay, that's fancy for saying, lemon and lavender,
Right.
so I break down that's what these things are. It might sound scary, but they're right here for you. And so I just try to equip and empower as best as I can, because it really can be a lot. And instead of throwing the whole book at you, I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, what page are you at? Let me meet you there. And then we're going to flip over to maybe this specific diagnosis and look at what's best for that.
Hmm. Excellent. Now, when you were on 12 different prescriptions and uh, was it the same doctor that prescribed all these?
No, at
Okay.
that point, I had 5 different doctors. I had, of course, like my primary, I had my OBGYN, I had a blood doctor, I was referred to an oncology center, and I had as an immunologist, because I do have celiac. And so everybody at this point was just looking at my blood because I was pretty much, my body was just inflaming and attacking itself. I ended up having an allergy specialist added to that mix because I am allergic to 7 of the 8 major food allergens.
Wow.
So there are lots of different learning curves, but had I never have taken the chance to um, step back from all of those pharmaceuticals, I never would have been able to hear my body. And my
Right.
body was saying there's inflammation in my gut. My bones and my everything aches, and this is how it aches. And I could figure out what inflammation that was stemming from. So that was plant medicine as a whole. I really truly feel is one of the greatest and most underutilized tools for a journey to getting to know your body better.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you started to introduce cannabis into your daily regimen, and how receptive were these doctors when you were like, "Hey, I don't think I need this anymore"?
Some, well, okay, I would say 4 of my 5 that I was seeing were not receptive to that. I really
And was
truly,
this, sorry, was this pre or post it becoming legal for medical purposes in Oklahoma?
at this point, it was around the time that it was becoming.
Okay.
And so I ultimately I wasn't one of the first year card carriers and, all of that good stuff. And so I was very, in the beginning, I was more trying to protect myself of, well, what do you think of this as an option? I hear it might be coming to this state. At that point, though, I was already consuming 1 hit every single night
Okay.
for my sleep. Um, so whenever it became legal, once I started learning, is when I truly made it a full blown, hands down regimen. And at that point, once I put all the pieces together, and Modern Miss Jane began as a hidden identity. I wouldn't show my face on there, but I wanted to review all the different types of products and modalities and all of those things. And then eventually it was like, once I learned the truth, I was like, oh no, I do not care. People can see me because I got something to say about this. um, and so that's really kind of where all of that just came together.
Awesome.
And I didn't hear
So
what the
you
doctors
said
had to say.
four of the 5 doctors weren't very receptive.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, that conversation moved from like, what do you think, to like, I use it. And if you don't like it, I actually have a different primary care doctor. I still do have the one doctor that supported me, but now I've been able to heal my body so much that the oncology, I just go back at this point every other year for some blood checkups. So it's like I really don't care. I'm the legal card carrying patient. And the other two doctors, I thankfully I don't have to see, nor do I have to refer them.
Yeah, I know you mentioned the AMA earlier,
Mhm.
and that they were, standing up for our rights. I'm always curious how doctors act and react to finding out that a patient says, "Hey, all these meds you gave me with side effect X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
Um, the side effect from this is I might eat more and I might sleep more." Um,
Yep.
so did any of them try to pressure you, or maybe you know, maybe judge isn't the word, but look at it
I
in a
mean,
certain way where
yeah.
you were doing something wrong?
Absolutely. And I think that ultimately for any doctor, it's just going to come back to lack of knowledge when it comes to the actual benefits or the full blown interactions. There are some medications, prescription medications, that you really need to be doctor guided. I mean, if it says don't take with grapefruit, like you need to be talking to your doctor about when you're consuming cannabis and CBD. So there are things that you really, really need to have guided there. And I think that it ultimately just comes down to some doctors just don't know. And um, it- depending on your region and where you're located, some doctors don't care to know. And so I think that's our job as patients. If we continue taking something to our doctor, multiple people start taking it to the doctor, then guess what? Possibly that doctor might start saying, okay, where can I find some more education about this? Maybe they've something might be going something here. But ultimately, it just comes down to fear equates to lack of knowledge in that one area.
Right. Um, how knowledgeable were you around this time? And did you start to say to them, "Hey, do you know what an endocannabinoid system is?" And were you trying to educate them? And did they look at you like, "What did you just like WebMD all this and come in here?" And
So my now primary care doctor, I get to completely geek out and share that experience with, and that's been absolutely incredible. But a couple of them, it was during my phase of like, I really don't care what you have to say, I'm going to use it. It was before I really kind of bestowed the power of knowledge of
sure.
the plant. So there's different phases based on the different doctors, but as a whole, I have gone back because of my certifications. I do have the ability to do continuing education credits for doctors and nurses, and so that is one thing that I willingly will go into any doctor's office. And since I do have the software to help people get their medical cards, I love going in and talking to doctors and just figuring out what is their knowledge level when it comes to the plant. Is it something that you encourage? Maybe start with topicals. A lot of people just think cannabis, they just picture someone just sitting and smoking. But in reality, there's so many different options and modalities.
Yeah, one of the reasons I ask as well is my girl's a nurse, and we do a lot of holistic medicine, IV infusions. I do cryotherapy, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Beautiful.
Um,
Yes.
but she's kind of more in the private sector now, but when she was, working for hospitals and doctors and stuff like that, she's like, they don't, some of them don't care to learn new stuff.
Exactly.
They did the schooling. I know what I know. Don't try and introduce something new.
Right.
And I recently read Molecules of Emotion, Candace Pert, and she
Mm,
talked about, she was the one that found out what an opiate receptor was, and trying to introduce the concept of this newfound science. And everyone's like, "Oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're just some woman," because this was like in the late 70s, early 80s.
yep.
And you know it's strange that and I think most of them are well intended. But it's strange that it's like, wouldn't you want to know more, or possibly find out something else? I mean, we're evolving every day as humans, and so
Absolutely.
new information comes out. There's things that we thought we knew, or we were told when we were younger,
Yep.
that
Unlearning.
not true. Unlearning, absolutely. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I'm always curious. People's interactions with their doctors when they tell them that they use cannabis. I was like 24 or 26. It was like, I think it was actually the last time I got a physical. And I was consuming every day and I was like working out. I was in the best shape of my life. And I told my doctor I just got new insurance. I had to go get a physical. I told my doctor because she's like, "Is there anything you're not telling me?" And I'm like, "Well, I smoke marijuana every day." And she's like, "Oh, that's bad for you." And I said, "You just went through my whole chart. I purposely didn't tell you this in the beginning. Now
Mhm.
tell me why. Tell me everything you just," and she just had the typical, this is what I was told through medical school or
Yep.
whatever. Um,
The endocannabinoid system wasn't technically founded and documented. It was either 91 or 93. And so 1993, so early 90s, you know. So a lot of people just kind of have that whole like, well, it wasn't in the textbooks, you know, you kind of said that. And so that's one thing I just try and tell people, like, this is technically kind of a newfound thing in the light of things. And so I just kind of try and bring that to the forefront when people say, well, how don't I know about this? Or, you know, well, when I was in school, it wasn't even in the textbooks. Okay, well, you're right, because it's brand new. So do you want to hear the supporting facts?
right. Have you ever had a doctor consume some on their own to kind of experiment and see?
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
I know that a couple doctors that I see, and honestly, that's, you know, why I support and refer there, is I know that they are, you know, patients as well. And to me, that's just even more props to the doctor.
Sure. Yeah, I don't want to say it's like the drug dealer trying his own stuff and like, but I mean, I have friends and know people, a doctor friend of mine who's like going through cancer treatment and
Yeah.
he's always been like, "Oh, that's," and he still refuses to like acknowledge there's any benefit from it, which is disappointing. I'm not trying to force it on anybody, but
Yeah.
um it's like one of these things where, he's a little bit older and he thinks he knows what he knows. And
Yeah.
um and I think, I blame the media for a lot of things, but I think we also need to take responsibility too. And
Mhm.
I work at a volunteer at a raptor rehab. I work with hawks and eagles, and we use CBD cream on their talons,
Yeah.
um, because they can get this thing called bumblefoot from, they're not able to be released, so they have to sit on multiple perches. So it's not like they're out in the wild, so they can get like abrasions on their feet. So we put this CBD cream on them, and so one day they were joking about, "Oh, don't get the birds high," and I'm like, "Listen, there's teenagers here. Let's make sure that we're talking about the right thing. Like that
Yes.
you can't get high from CBD, at
That's
least
correct.
not this little bit that we put, you know." And
Yeah.
so, and they're like, "No, no, no, we know." And I'm like, "That's fine if you know.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to put this in these kids' heads at 16 and
Exactly.
17 years old and think that, oh my God, CBD is bad now, when
Right.
CBD is probably, everybody should probably be taking CBD."
Yes. Oh, everybody absolutely should be taking CBD. Some doctors are actually starting to do some massive research on endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome, and
Wow.
so everybody should be taking CBD. And you know, if you think about it, you think about how just sick our generations have gotten, and you think of removing it from our timeline. Our cows used to eat hemp in the fields. Our clothing used to be made with hemp. I mean, it is one of the most diverse plants, so you go from having it stimulating your endocannabinoid system to it not even being in the atmosphere anymore. And so I think that we'll start to see a turn in things as well. You know, the more just, again, breaking down the difference between hemp, THC, you know, just all the little differences. I think it's important for people to not turn a blind eye to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially uh, you practice abundance and they're always preaching scarcity. Oh, we don't have enough of this, we don't have enough of that. And it's like, well, uh, let's look at hemp. Look at
Yeah,
all the many uses of hemp. If we're talking scarcity, everybody should be growing hemp then,
absolutely,
because
absolutely.
all the
And
things that can be used with hemp.
I love throwing it, you know, with my tomato plants. It literally the plants grow better. There's more nutrients being sucked in. I mean, it's amazing thinking of my gardens prior to having that in there with them. It really is amazing. Um, and where you focus flows when it comes to abundance living. And so I really feel if you have the can't, won't, don't have, if you're just constantly in that loop, then guess what's going to constantly keep presenting. And so simple switches. I find myself, even when I get overly nervous, instead of saying, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous now, I say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, I'm so excited. You know what I mean? It's how you frame it, it's how you speak it, because guess what, now excitement is going to start finding me instead of nervousness. So
Right.
there's abundance, mental, physical, and financial, and I think it's important that we look at it all.
Awesome. Yeah, you attract what you put out there. So you can
Absolutely.
just switch that mindset, and all of a sudden you've magnetized something
Yes. And
completely
it can
opposite.
be very, very hard. I have a diagnosis of major depressive disorder. Thinking happy and abundantly is not my first nature. And so, that's something that falls into that emotional and mental abundance as well. So, man, plant medicine.
Yeah, it's awesome. Um, we got a few minutes left. You want to mention the website design?
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of what I guess started it all for me. At this point, I am no longer just isolated to the medical. I do still have that opportunity, but I have, diversified my portfolio. I have grow websites, dispensary websites, CBD manufacturers, affiliate programs. I've built over 200 websites at this point, and so
Wow.
within the industry and without. And so I just, that first and foremost, I love building websites. And so, yeah, anything you need there, I got you.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I want to quickly mention Food Forest Abundance. Food Forest Abundance is a great way to create your own self-sustaining food forest and naturally occurring ecosystem that's commonly found in nature, but designed specifically for you. Through multiple layers of trees, shrubs, herbs, vines, rhizomes, mushrooms, and perennial vegetables, you can become your own supply chain without the typical maintenance required of a garden. From small spaces to large areas, both urban and suburban, Food Forest Abundance wants us to get back to our roots in nature by engaging with our food production in a meaningful way. For more information, click on the link in the description below and start your journey today. Okay, let's get back to today's episode. Well, Courtney, it was awesome speaking with you. It was a great conversation. I've learned a lot, and hopefully those that are watching this or listening will learn something as well. So thank you for that. Let everybody know the best place that they can find more of you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go follow me on Facebook. That's probably where I'm most active.
Okay.
But absolutely, you can find me on Instagram. That's a little bit more of a business structured kind of flow. So Modern Miss Jane over there. And of course, my website you can check out anytime, Modern Miss Jane, and that is MSJANE.
Excellent. All the links will be down below, so definitely go give her a follow and check out Modern Miss Jane. Ms. Jane. And for those of you watching this on YouTube, make sure you go down there and smash that like button. Really, really enjoyed this conversation. So thank you again, Courtney. And make sure you are subscribed to Dro TV on YouTube if that's where you're watching this, because otherwise you would miss amazing conversations like this one. So that's it for today. Were you smoking on something earlier?
Oh, absolutely. Should we smoke on our way out?
Yeah. What are you smoking on?
This is called Rarest Dankest, also known as RD number 1. A nice
Rarest Dankest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is like I end every episode with smoke 'em if you got 'em.
Got it.
What's up, Dro TV family? You can now stream the audio version of all these episodes on your favorite podcast player. And if you like more episodes like this, check out this playlist we put together over here for you. And if you haven't already, subscribe to us on YouTube. You don't want to miss more great content from Dro TV. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, smoke 'em if you got 'em.